I awoke with a terrible headache, slowly blinking my eyes open to a blinding light streaming in through the window. Confusion set in as I realized I was lying in a bed, and I glanced down to see a long, thin tube attached to my hand. A surge of panic rushed through me. Was I in the hospital? I scanned the room, taking in the hospital gown I was wearing, but it was empty. No one else was present. My hands moved to check my body, seeking any signs of injury or broken bones, yet I felt no pain. How had I ended up here? My gaze fell upon a red button beside the bed, accompanied by a sign that read, "Press in case of emergency," so I pressed it. In a hurry, a nurse burst into the room, her reaction startled and alarmed. "Oh my God, Mr. Wright, you finally awakened. It's a miracle," she exclaimed, rushing to contact the doctors. Soon, two physicians entered the room, commencing a series of assessments. They began with seemingly trivial questions, such as spelling my name or calculating 1 plus 1, and then ventured into personal inquiries about my life, to which I responded with suspicion. "You seem perfectly fine. We'll need to run some tests to determine the results, and then you should be able to go home. Your family will be overjoyed to see you awake," one of the doctors reassured me. I was overwhelmed, trying to process the whirlwind of events. Recognizing my struggle, the doctor gently explained that I had been in a severe accident, suffering a significant head injury and a broken leg. I absorbed the information, my eyes locked onto the doctor's face. It felt surreal, but he confirmed that he wasn't joking. I had been in a coma for an entire year. A whole year. I was left in stunned disbelief as the doctor clarified that during a coma, individuals remain unconscious, with no external stimuli capable of waking them. The only course of action was to wait patiently until the time was right for them to awaken. An hour later, my family arrived at the hospital. Mom, Dad, and my twin sisters. Their faces radiated with joy at the sight of me. Mom's eyes welled up with tears, and even Dad, typically stoic, showed a rare display of emotion. Then, a beautiful woman named Savannah entered the room. She greeted everyone warmly, embracing Mom with a kiss. She then came over to me, planted a kiss on my cheek, and wrapped me in a hug, exclaiming, "Oh my God, I'm so glad you're back." I looked at her, a sense of confusion washing over me. "Excuse me, do I know you?" I asked. Laughter erupted in the room, and Mom explained the doctors warned us there might be some memory loss due to the head injury. She regarded me with sympathy and continued, "She's your fiancé. She's the one who saved your life. Don't worry, honey, you'll remember everything in time." But I persisted, "No, she's not. I don't remember being engaged to anyone." Mom directed my attention to my hand, and as I looked down, I saw a ring I didn't recognize. "Savannah has one too," Mom added. It left me speechless, as if my mom had just stated an undeniable fact. Savannah remained silent, wearing a gentle smile. The entire situation felt surreal. How could I remember every detail of my life before the accident, yet have no recollection of Savannah? 3 days later, I was discharged from the hospital and taken directly to my parents' house. I was in a wheelchair because I needed time to regain my ability to walk. Everyone welcomed me warmly, and Mom prepared a lovely dinner for us. Savannah seemed at home in my parents' house, engaging in banter with Dad, assisting Mom, and chatting with my sisters. She pushed my wheelchair, set the table, and sat beside me. Every time I needed something at the table, she was there to help, even though I couldn't understand the connection we supposedly shared. And I didn't like it one bit. My parents would recount events that transpired during my unconsciousness, moments when I had been screaming in panic. My mind raced with questions. What about Twix, my dog? Did anyone take care of her? Yes, I did, Savannah chimed in. I brought her to my apartment after we were told your coma might last a while. I stared at her, feeling an unexpected surge of anger. Was I the only one who found her presence intrusive? Who was this woman, and why did I not feel any connection to her? I stayed at my parents' house due to its proximity to the hospital, necessary for my physical therapy sessions. Naturally, Savannah was with me most of the time. I yearned for a private moment to discuss how we had met, but it seemed there was never an opportune time. We were constantly surrounded by people, my family, friends, and colleagues who visited to check on me. One night, feeling particularly perplexed, I decided to call Nathan, my best friend, who was currently in China on a business trip. I FaceTimed him using my new phone since the old one had been destroyed in the accident. I inquired about Savannah and whether I had ever mentioned her to him. His response left me even more bewildered. Yeah, he said, you told me you were dating a lovely girl and that you were excited to have her in your life. Congratulations, buddy. I didn't know you had already proposed. I hung up the phone, feeling like the universe was playing a cruel trick on me by denying me recollection of my fiancé. Eventually, I had to surrender to the situation. I made a conscious effort to treat Savannah kindly and accepted the fact that I had proposed to her. I decided to give her a chance, hoping that maybe in time I would develop deeper feelings for her. My family seemed to like her already, and they got along well with her. So I tried my best to suppress the awkwardness I felt and focus on her positive qualities. 2 months later, I had regained my ability to walk, and I returned to my apartment. Savannah assisted me in putting some of my belongings back in their places, and everything seemed just as I had left it. There was even a picture of Savannah and me on the shelf. Taking a seat on the sofa, I turned to Savannah and asked, "Honey, could you get me a pillow from my bedroom?" She replied, "Sure." However, instead of heading to the bedroom, she made her way to the bathroom. I chuckled and remarked, "You don't seem to remember the way to the bedroom. It's to the left." She gave an awkward laugh and said, "Yeah, I haven't been here in a while." Of course, considering I had been in a coma all this time, it was understandable that she wouldn't have spent much time here. But what followed left me questioning her once more. Savannah always seemed busy. Whenever I suggested spending time together, she'd come up with excuses for why she couldn't. She worked as a cafe manager and often claimed she couldn't leave the cafe because of excessive work or that she couldn't leave it for the other employees. It seemed implausible to me because I knew she had control over her own hours. Then, when my dad proposed a family trip to our beach house, Savannah was the first to agree. She said, "I can make this work. I can hire an employee for when we're away." I was taken aback. I had been trying to get her to go out to dinner for 2 weeks, and she had consistently declined, citing her busy work schedule. I raised an eyebrow and asked, "What's changed now?" She blushed and admitted, "The worker I rely on the most returned from his trip 2 days ago, so I'm free now." I didn't say anything as she went along with our family to the beach house, appearing content to be with them. On the first day at the beach house, I suggested we take a long walk just before sunset. The view was enchanting, and I thought it was the perfect moment to share a kiss. After all, I hadn't tried since waking up from my coma. She had only kissed me on the cheek and forehead before. However, as I leaned in for a kiss, it was merely good. Not great, not mesmerizing, just good. It left me feeling somewhat disappointed. So I made the decision to end our relationship. I had reached my limit, and I couldn't continue with it any longer. The moment we returned to the city, I planned to break up with Savannah. However, just 2 days after I had settled back into my apartment, my friends and coworkers surprised me with a party. They wanted to celebrate my engagement and welcome me back to work, and it didn't feel right to announce our separation at that moment. So on the night of the party, I went to pick up Savannah, and she looked stunning in a black dress. As I saw her, a strange feeling came over me, as if I was falling in love with her all over again, and I realized how much I genuinely liked her. Upon arriving at the party, I began introducing her to my friends. Strangely, she didn't seem to recognize anyone there. While I was engrossed in conversation with my boss, a strikingly beautiful woman approached me, saying, "I thought you disappeared." I furrowed my brow and responded, "I'm sorry, but how do I know you?" She smiled and identified herself as Scarlett, adding, "We were supposed to have our first date right before your accident. I waited, but you never called, so I assumed you were not interested." I stared at Scarlett, my mind racing, trying to connect the dots. Scarlett, Savannah, the accident, the engagement. There was some connection among them, but I couldn't grasp it. I apologized to Scarlett and then immediately approached Savannah, determined to find out exactly how we had met. Something didn't add up. However, when I reached her, she was standing on the balcony, seemingly engaged in a conversation. As I got closer, I overheard her saying, "I can't do this anymore." I thought it would be easy, but it wasn't. "I think I'm going to tell him tonight." My heart raced as I wondered who she was talking to. Taking a few steps back, I positioned myself next to the door, straining to listen further. Then, I heard her voice again, mentioning someone named Ruby, and I realized that something was seriously amiss. "He's not buying it. He's noticing all the wrong things I'm doing," I thought to myself. Perhaps I wasn't a good actor. The mention of Ruby left me perplexed. Did she talk to my dad? It felt strange that my dad would be involved in whatever was happening. Savannah's phone conversation ended with her promising to talk later once they got home. She hung up and stood there for a moment, visibly trying to calm herself. Initially, I had the urge to confront her and demand an explanation. However, I decided against it. If there was something going on, I needed to uncover the truth on my own because she was likely to lie and manipulate the facts. Taking a deep breath, I went outside and greeted her with, "Oh honey, I missed you. What are you doing here?" Amelie, my friend, smiled awkwardly and entered with me. I introduced her to more friends as if nothing unusual had occurred. That night, Savannah stayed at my house. While she slept, I seized the opportunity to unlock her phone using her fingerprint. I knew she wouldn't wake up. She had consumed quite a bit of alcohol that night, thanks to my persistent encouragement. As I unlocked her phone, I stumbled upon something that left me utterly shocked. It turned out that my dad was having an affair with Savannah. There were numerous pictures of them together, sleeping in various hotel rooms and even in our beach house. In a bizarre way, everything fell into place. When I had my accident, my dad had met Savannah, developed an attraction to her, and had started a clandestine relationship. They had fabricated the entire engagement carried to provide a cover for my dad to cheat on my mom without arousing suspicion. After all, she was meant to be my wife, so no one would think twice if they were seen together. I later reached out to Nathan to discuss the situation, but he confirmed the details, assuming I was referring to Scarlett, not Savannah. The revelation left me in a state of disbelief and betrayal. Discovering the truth was like unearthing a devious plot. I had doubted my own sanity for not recalling Savannah, but it turned out I had been played for a fool. As I scrolled through the messages exchanged between her and my dad, the pieces fell into place. My dad had promised her a staggering $2 million in exchange for marrying me and staying with him. He had even told her that she was the love of his life. I was filled with a deep sense of anger and humiliation, realizing that my father had manipulated me, using me as a pawn for his own desires. I couldn't believe I had been so naive, and the revelation about $2 million left me baffled. I had no idea my dad had that kind of wealth. I couldn't fathom where he had hidden it all. I sat there in stunned silence, trying to process it all, but I couldn't sit still. It was clear to me that my mom didn't deserve this deception, and if there was any money involved, it should rightfully belong to us, his children. So I made a copy of the messages and sent them to my mom. She needed to know the truth. When Savannah woke up the next morning, I informed her that our relationship was over. She seemed utterly confused and even uttered, "We were just celebrating our engagement," as if she believed her own fabricated reality, a normal couple in love. I refused to entertain her delusions and promptly asked her to leave my house. Approximately an hour later, I received a call from my mom and rushed over to our family home. She and my dad were embroiled in a heated argument, with mom demanding a divorce. Dad shot me a furious glance, clearly aware that I had exposed his deceit. He yelled at me, admonishing, "If only you could keep your mouth shut." In response, I retorted, "Are you yelling at me? You should keep your mouth shut." Despite his seething anger, he said nothing more and stormed out of the room. 2 months later, my parents finalized their divorce. The unexpected twist in this whole ordeal was that the money my dad had intended to give Savannah actually belonged to my mom. As it turned out, my mom came from a wealthy family, a fact I had been completely unaware of. She had placed all her assets in my name through a will, ensuring that only I would inherit them. In the end, I found myself dating Scarlett, my first real crush, as I moved on from the tumultuous chapter in my life.